Thank you for attending the Week of Kindness. Coming up next is another powerful, impactful, amazing speaker. Get your notepad out, get your pen. Let's get ready and enjoy.
Hi, I'm Jay Fairbrother, the Mastermind Guy, and I'm thrilled to be back speaking at the Week of Kindness and Gratitude Summit. This is one of my favorite summits of the year, and I'm honored to be on this panel of amazing speakers put on by Tony Kaufman and her team. So I'm a serial entrepreneur for the last 30-some years. I have founded, bought, and sold multiple seven-figure businesses, and of course, have had some pretty good success as well as some massive failures. And I'll tell you more about those in a minute. But I'm here today to talk to you if you are an expert of any kind, meaning you're a coach or a speaker, a healer, an author, a course creator. I want to show you and talk to you about how anyone can create a high impact recurring revenue program and scale their business past six figures, hopefully onto seven figures and higher. And I'm going to share my personal experience and how I help experts to achieve this. I'm going to stop for a minute and share some slides. Don't worry, this isn't going to be a boring slide presentation. I'll try to bounce back and forth and keep this fun, and I hope you learn something. So first, I want to talk about the evolution of a typical coaching business. And I'm using coaching term here generically to cover all types of experts. Typically, we start out doing one-on-one coaching, which of course has great impact. You can transform people and change lives, but it's not scalable. So when I came back into coaching a few years ago, that's exactly what I did. I started, and over the last couple of years, I worked with over 100 coaches working one-on-one to help them with selling conversations that are typically required to get high-end clients. High-end clients aren't usually coming to you at the end of a funnel. You usually need to get on a one-on-one call or have a one-on-one conversation. So my approach to this is I have 35 years of experience doing sales training and building sales teams. And I try to teach people a sort of more natural in selling with more integrity. The typical old school sales training is a sort of male-dominated corporate mentality where there's a win-lose kind of thing, and I've never believed in that. And so anyway, I was doing the one-on-one coaching. It's very successful. Loved working with the coaches, but again, it's not scalable. So most of us, as we grow our coaching business, then we create a course, a 4-week course, 6-week, 8-week course, and maybe then start doing group coaching with, basically where you're just training to a group. And that is a great way to scale or get started scaling. But often there's a drastic drop off in the level of implementation and therefore impact and real transformation that you have. And it can be very difficult to achieve, or at least more difficult in a group setting. So why is that the case? Some of the problems with group coaching is just that it's a one-to-many teaching model. So, group coaching, and some people call a group coaching program a mastermind just because it seems to sell better, or they can get a higher price if they call it a mastermind. But it's really just, people show up, they pray to the altar of the guru, there's some Q&A, and that's your group coaching, or they sometimes call it a mastermind. One of the reasons that one of the problems with that is that people are often at very different levels in a group coaching program. And so you're teaching either to, the common denominator of the group. The people at the bottom start to feel left behind. The people at the top feel like it's rudimentary, and it's tough to achieve that balance. The other is that it's limited to a one-to-guru relationship, right? So the only relationships being formed in group coaching or in a course are to you as the expert. It's usually very content-driven. And, in my case, I don't love to crank out content. I mean, I can, and hopefully my content is decent, but it's not, my superpower is just to keep cranking out content week after week and coming up with new things to teach people. The other issue is retention. People drop out of group coaching programs. And often at the end of a group coaching program, if it's a 3-month program or something like that, the people who love you are like, well, what's next? And conversely, they can feel like, okay, I've learned everything from you. Time for me to move on to the next guru. So the logical place that the most successful coaches on the planet go is that they create masterminds, often high-end masterminds, which can be obviously scalable, but can also have massive impact. So let me ask you this, assuming you are an expert, would your followers, would they want a safe, trusted, confidential space to discuss their most challenging business or personal issues, depending on what type of people are, what, is your mastermind business oriented or lifestyle oriented? Would they want a community where everyone shared mutual respect and they were equally motivated by the groups, as much by the group success as to their own? And would your followers want a group of like-minded peers to collaborate with and get supported by? This is what can happen in a mastermind. And this word salad here is the words that are typically associated with masterminding. So it's collaboration and accountability and scaling and mentorship and that kind of thing. And these are all great words and reasons alone to create a mastermind. But to me, what a mastermind really provides is more like these words. It's connection, it's community, collaboration, it's comfort. It's creating a womb-like environment where people feel like they are going to grow together in that womb and ultimately, create real transformation, evolve their business, evolve their personal life, change their lifestyle, whatever that is. So to me, this is the real key to masterminding, is to be able to create this level of connection with people. And if you think about it, in a post-COVID world, what are we really wanting is true deep connections with people, right? We're glued to our phones. We're isolated more than we ever have been in the past. There's all kinds of business relationships that are typically just transactional. They're not real connections. You don't form deep, lifelong relationships with people. And that, to me, this is just my personal opinion, I really think that's what people want right now, and frankly, what the world needs. All right, so I'll get off my soapbox there for 1 second. But certainly, again, some of the biggest names in the expert coaching industry use high-end masterminds to create and scale their businesses. I'm going to assume that YPO is Young Presidents Organization, a global entrepreneurial community. Most of these names you probably know. Tony Robbins, of course, has an $85,000 a year mastermind. So let me share a little bit of my story and why I'm talking about this and how I got involved. So I remember 25 years ago, when I walked out of my very first entrepreneur mastermind meeting, and I said to myself, oh my God, I finally found my tribe. It was a life-changing moment for me. And I spent the next 25 years in mastermind groups, many of them participating, and I started creating my own. And I've never, as an entrepreneur, done anything that creates anywhere near the level of growth, learning, and impact that the masterminds, the good ones that I've been in, have provided. So let me tell you a little bit more about my story. I mentioned some success and failures. Um, my first company, when I started, I had some pretty good immediate success. And I started it from credit cards. I started with nothing. And within a few years, within 2 or 3 years, I had hit $1 million in annual revenue. And I kind of plateaued there. I kind of got stuck at that level and couldn't seem to figure out how to get it past that. And that's when I got involved with my first mastermind and started hanging out with other entrepreneurs who all have similar problems. As entrepreneurs, it's one of the loneliest things in the world to be an entrepreneur. But for them, as long as we're relatively at the same levels, we all have similar problems, and we're often trying to address similar challenges. So, fortunately, because in large part because the mastermind I was in, that company grew quite large, and I grew it to 5 million in sales, and my ego was feeling pretty good. And I grew it to 50 employees, and I, kind of thought I was a hotshot. And I ended up growing that business to 200 employees, and I sold it in 2004. I have a tremendous amount of gratitude because it's very few entrepreneurs on the planet ever get to sell one business, let alone several. So the next few years after that were very fun and happy and bright. And I bought a couple of businesses. I did a lot of things and made a lot of investments. And then came the 2008 to 2010 financial crisis. And by the year 2012, I had completely lost everything. So quite literally, I went from being a multimillionaire living in a mansion to living in my friend's basement without even owning a car. Obviously, that experience changed me as a person and as an entrepreneur. It was devastating, and frankly, I did not deal with it well. I spent far too long in that basement, figuratively, about 5 months literally. I spent far too long dealing with all that shame, and I withdrew from the entrepreneurial circles that I had created and been involved with. I was the two-time president of the Young Entrepreneurs Organization in Pittsburgh, where I was involved in many masterminds. And it was really just a very tough period. So it took me quite a while to feel like I built up enough resilience and had enough, had gotten beyond that shame enough to be able to hang my shingle again as a coach, which, as I mentioned, I did a few years ago. Started down that one-to-one coaching path, and I actually was starting on working on a sales training course that is actually finished, packaged, and in the can, because there was a point at which I just felt like that's not authentic I love sales training, but it's not my passion. My passion is being in entrepreneur mastermind groups and helping other people get into them. So along this journey, in the past few years, I got involved with an organization called Global Leaders Organization, or we call it GLOW. And I started a Pittsburgh chapter. And one of the main value propositions in this organization is to create masterminds of entrepreneurs, like I was involved with the Young Entrepreneurs years ago. And it's like YPO, which I mentioned on that slide. So I was involved with this organization for 5 or 6 months, and they asked me to step up on a leadership team. And now I'm the executive vice president of GLOW. And my job is to find, recruit, and manage chairs to start chapters of GLOW all over the world, and then help them form masterminds within their chapters. So I'm telling you the story only to kind of bring it full circle that it took me a while to get there, even after I launched my new coaching career. And but serendipitously, I found GLOW. And then I just sort of stopped in my tracks and I said, look, masterminds is my thing. And that's what I want to help to create, teach, and get people involved in. And most of it is because, again, I feel like that is the best way for experts to really leverage, create more impact in the world and change the world. So let me ask you this. If you set an intention today, I'm going to do this. How long would it take for you to find 9 people who know, love, and trust you? Not know, like, and trust you, but know, love, and trust you, and would pay you $1,000 a month to hang out with you and a few other really smart people just like them to help them achieve life-changing transformations? Think about that for a minute. For some people, you could probably do that within 2 months. For other people, it might take a year if you set your intention to do it and work towards that. So I'm sure what you're thinking is, but Jay, I'm not Tony Robbins. I don't have that kind of authority, expertise, to reach to be able to do that. But again, I'm talking about in that previous slide, 9 people. I'm not talking about 900 people. So let me pause here and let's do some math. And I want to show you some examples of how you can add 6 figures in revenue to your current expert business and how you can get there. Okay, so this is a calculator that I created for pricing group coaching and mastermind programs. I'll show you, there's another tab on here that I'm not going to cover today, but this is how to create pricing for all of your programs using tiers, and it's part of a pricing masterclass that I also teach. But let's talk about this group coaching. So let's say, okay, Jay, I don't think I can find in 2 months of people to pay me $1,000 a month. Or let's say, Jay, I'm not even positive that I want to do a pure mastermind. I'm doing group coaching, or I want to do group coaching, and I don't want to have that drop off in implementation. So let's just look at some examples. Let's say you had a group coaching program, and you had a 3-month program, and you were going to charge $2,500 per person for that 3-month program. Okay. So trust me on the math here, that works out to about $834 if I price it monthly, because that's what this is based on. So you can see here on the total price, it's like $2,502. It's just over $2,500. So a $2,500 3-month program. Well, if you could find 20 people to take that program, then you are creating $50,000 in revenue for a 3-month program. And if you did that 2 times a year, there's $100,000 in revenue right there. Okay. Now you can start to quickly figure this out. If I took that if it's a 3-month program, so technically I could do it 4 times. And, let's say I only wanted to charge $1,500. So that would be still $120,000 revenue with 15 people. Let's just take it down to 100,000, which is about, I think it's about 17 people. So 17 people paying $1,500 for a 3-month group coaching program, and you've got $100,000 in revenue. Okay, let's look at the mastermind example. So again, I gave you the math earlier. 9 people at $1,000 a month gives you 100,000. But let's say you felt you weren't confident enough or weren't sure that you could get that kind of price. So let's say you created a mastermind that's $600 and it's a 6-month program. So $600 a month for 6 months. Well, again, if you had 14 students, and in a 6-month program, you ran it twice in a year, there's $100,000 in revenue for your coaching business. Think about adding that $100,000 in revenue to whatever revenue you already have through one-on-ones, through selling courses, and that kind of thing. And what's most important about this is it's monthly revenue. It's recurring revenue. One of the things I hate about being a coach is that revenue cycle of, launching courses, launching group coaching programs, one-on-one clients coming and going. So there's never any consistent revenue to pay your bills. And that's one of the great benefits to creating a mastermind program or a longer term group coaching program. So let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, I want to introduce you to a concept that I call trickle-down masterminding, because again, we haven't really talked much about what a true mastermind is. We don't have time to get into that in this short presentation. But if you said, I'm not sure I want to create a pure mastermind, that smaller group of 10 or 12 people that get to know each other very well and form these long relationships, I want to do more of like a group coaching thing. And that's fine. I'm not out to preach that there's only one way to do a mastermind or one way to do anything. I think as entrepreneurs, the trick is finding what is truest to our superpower, what we're passionate about, what we love doing and could do all day long, and it doesn't feel like work. So what I want to just sort of leave you with here is this concept of trickle-down masterminding. So if you can take some of the masterminding strategies, protocols, and techniques, some of the things that I teach are principles used by the Young Entrepreneurs Organization, Young Presidents Organization, Google, obviously, which I mentioned, Google, Harvard Business School. These are strategies that keep people in masterminds, not just for years, but for decades. I was in a mastermind one mastermind out of the many I've been in for 17 years. In fact, that mastermind is still going on. I left a few years ago because I developed a competitive conflict with one of the other members, and one of us had to leave. So I volunteered to step out of that one. And one little last piece that I'll share is, guess whose basement I lived in after I lost everything? Of course, it was somebody in that mastermind, that 17-year mastermind. I think I was in it for about 6 or 7 years at that point. But that's and I got a lot of other support from the members in that mastermind when I was going through that horrible experience. So with this concept of trickle-down masterminding, one of my missions is to elevate the concept of group coaching to achieve greater transformation and breakthrough profits for experts, coaches, healers, course creators, speakers, authors. What I want to do is teach people how to implement some of the things you use to create an unbelievable mastermind into your group coaching programs for better retention, better implementation, better transformation. And I want to add that anyone can do this. So first, let me tell you about my friend, Lisa. So Lisa was a brand new coach, had pretty much just started in the industry a few months and was out trying to learn everything she could and go to networking meetings and that kind of thing. And she decided, after speaking with a bunch of people on one-on-one calls, I think she talked to about 30 people on one-on-one calls, most of whom were expressing how frustrated they were because they were spending all this money taking trainings and getting very little implementation and very little results. So identifying that, Lisa decided, you know what, I'm going to create a little mastermind here for all of these 30 people I talked to who are frustrated. And I'm going to invite them to a 2-month mastermind for $500 for the 2 months, not $500, or $500 total. And she went out and got 14 of those 30 people to pay that $500 to be in a mastermind focused on getting things done, just getting something launched, getting some traction, and getting some results. People were happy to join that and pay for that. So there's someone who went out and created $7,000 in coaching revenue as a brand newbie to our industry, with no experience in masterminds. Now, had she been able to work with me, perhaps we could have helped her take that 2-month and turn it into a longer term mastermind, but she proved to herself that she could do it. and anyone can do that. In fact, it's what she did is it's just a great approach, and I love using it, sharing that example. On the other hand, I also know a coach in our industry who's a name that many people would recognize, and their mentor, their coach, said, you need to create a high-end program. So go out and create a mastermind. And they did. And because they have, pretty good reach and authority in the industry, they went out and found 30 people to join a $10,000 mastermind. Now, this didn't happen overnight, of course, but they went out and achieved that, which is awesome. But because they've never run a mastermind before, I'm not even sure they were in one, they lost about 1/3 of those students over the first few months. People were dropping out because, again, it wasn't a well-run mastermind, so they weren't getting the implementation and results that people expect for that kind of a price point. So I give you those two examples to show, first of all, anyone can do it. But secondly, it's important to understand how to do a well-run mastermind and to use the strategies and principles and techniques which are going to work for the long term. So I have two free gifts that I'd like to leave you with. One is at mastermindreadyscorecard.com, and that is my assessment that you can take to find out if you're really ready in your business to create one of these high impact, recurring revenue, high end programs. If it takes 3 or 4 minutes to take this assessment, it will show you kind of where you're good, what things you might need, what gaps you need to fill in, and how far along you are in your business if you're able to do this successfully. So highly encourage that, and I look forward to seeing your results. And then for VIPs, my gift is a training on facilitation skills to run group and mastermind meetings. So it's just some of my tips that I have learned over 25 years of facilitating masterminds and groups, and some tips and tricks for being able to run effective meetings of any kind, but especially in a mastermind type setting. So that's my VIP gift. And again, the free gift is at mastermindreadyscorecard.com. So I appreciate your time very much. Thanks for your attention for this. I hope you enjoyed this short presentation at the Week of Kindness and Gratitude Summit. Please, I'd love to hear your story. You can email me at j@fairbrother.com. And please take the assessment, and look forward to seeing your results. Thanks very much for your time and attention.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed that just as much as I did. Thank you so much for all of that great information. Hey, we're not done yet, so just relax. We're going to continue on with our next speaker in just a few moments.